Welcome to this Last Mile Profits video, the last word on the last mile. People in the US are bashing last mile robots. Is this a security issue? To find out more, stay tuned. Modern Expo provides an integral ecosystem of screen-operated lockers, screenless autonomous solutions, refrigerated lockers, and even personal parcel lockers, powered by in-house developed software. Hey Gary, so today we are going to talk about AGVs, otherwise known as autonomous ground vehicles. Alternatively, if you want the simple term, robots.
I have to have the simple term, Marek, otherwise I'm just not going to get to grips with it. I'm 57 years old now.
Which always makes you younger than me, so relax.
Okay.
But tell me, because I think you saw a cool story on robots.
It was posted by a guy in our industry, Juan Sotolongo, of Lockars. He put a video on that he'd seen on TikTok of basically parcel lockers being, well, I don't think they were parcel lockers actually, they were home delivery autonomous vehicles being attacked on the streets of San Francisco, of Los Angeles. So they're being rolled on their back, broken into, and people looting out the takeaway food or groceries, whatever was going down the street there, and people just making off with it.
Wow. I mean, I've always had concerns about the sort of the small buggy type robotic delivery vehicles for many other reasons. I hadn't seen a security issue too much up until now. It's a bit like lockers. A lot of people say, oh, lockers are so insecure and dangerous. Actually, they're not. They're a lot safer than porch piracy or other things. But I think probably, Gary, it's a question of where you use them, because without a doubt, they will work pretty well in suburban middle-class areas. But perhaps they shouldn't necessarily be in places where maybe it's a little bit dark, where perhaps, the police are not so keen to show their faces, or am I being unreasonable?
Well, I think this was an idea dreamed up in Centre Parks and tested in Milton Keynes. So Milton Keynes is unique in the UK that every single street is connected by a pavement or a cycle path. So you can make your way from one end of the city to the other without having to cross a road at all. So it's the ideal place to test it. But it's this hostile type environment that I've been nervous about. I grew up in a council house in social housing, and it's not necessarily the environment where you would expect these things to move smoothly and safely through the streets without attracting a bit of curiosity. I've got colleagues who defend them and say, oh no, they've got CCTV and they can see when people are coming, etc. Well, the UK has got more CCTV cameras than people. On that basis, we should be crime-free, right? It might be a disincentive, but it's certainly not completely preventative. So I really worry about the security aspect of this a lot.
I won't go into the other issues because I'm generally not a fan of non-humanoid robots. So when Boston Dynamics, or I think Ford, have recently developed something pretty cool that is humanoid in its movements. But, until that can be cost effectively done, i.e. a robot that can navigate sort of steps, that can get right to your doorstep, until that is the case, I've got a lot of doubts. But to be fair, though, to the existing robots, on the security side, I reckon, number one, there's a lot that can be done. First of all, you can make it very clear that high-value items are not going to be inside the robot. You've got the cameras. You can have things like dye. I don't know if you've seen this before, but when we were doing a security project, someone breaks it open, it sprays dye over the contents so no one can use it. So, there's a lot of stuff, I think, that can be done. And I think probably, although it's quite probably comical to see I think it was upside down or something and screaming in a sort of, what's the word, synthesized scream. But, on balance, I'd say it's a little bit like with airplanes. They're probably actually relatively safe. People just see something like that and talk about it. But Gary, I don't know. My view is, in the short term, I believe much more in an autonomous last mile van that will allow a human courier to effectively stop, make the delivery and not have to worry about parking, much more at this stage than a robot.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Maybe the other way, Marek, is to get the robots to go down the street at 140 miles an hour. Then you couldn't catch the little buggers, could you? That might be the other way, just to keep them out of hands reach.
Well, you know what? I mean, good idea, but I've also thought about that because one of the issues with these robots is if they're too slow, other road users get irritated because they stop them. If they're too fast, they can theoretically cause accidents or knock over old ladies on the street or pavement. So, which in America, as you know, is quite an expensive thing to do. So I think probably they still need to do a bit of work. So our friends at Starship and I think Cleveron's changed the name for their robotic. I can't remember robotic division. Is it Clevon or something?
Clevon, yeah. Well, actually, I was in Atlanta this week, and they're testing them with an organisation in Peachtree, in Atlanta.
Well, I think, guys, there's still some work to be done. We will observe with interest. But for now, I think, the security issue is one to look at.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to become more neutral on this subject because I've had a fairly entrenched view for a long time, and maybe their time is coming, and I just need to wake up to that fact.
Thanks for watching this Last Mile Profits video. For more up-to-date last mile news and analysis, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn.